On today's show, Colin Caleb from the London Afrocentric Arts Association and musician Christian Daboud. Join me as we learn more about these hidden gems of London. In London, Ontario, our art and culture scene is thriving thanks to the creative talents of lifelong Londoners and people from around the world who have made this community their home. Together, we will get to know the people who are bringing our stages, galleries, and streets to life. First up, we have Colin Caleb. Colin is a key figure in the London Afrocentric Arts Association and plays a significant role in organizing the Essence and Culture Awards, which recognizes and celebrates Black excellence in various fields, such as art, medicine, education, and community service here in London, Ontario. Colin, thank you for joining us in London's Hidden Talent today. I am so excited to have you here as a leader in our local art and culture and music scene, and also because we have the Essence Awards coming right up, one of my favorite occasions here in London, Ontario. So thank you for coming to tell us a little bit more about what you do and about the awards.
You're welcome, and it was a pleasure to see you at our last awards. I think I saw you mentioning the awards before, and you literally captivated everything that I wanted to say. Yes, we're showcasing our Black communities, and I like to say not just one Black community, because there's so many Black communities in London, and what we're doing is trying to get the best of each of all those communities and present it to London. So we do that in arts and sciences and medicine, social services, and then we have our legacy series.
And the awards are one way that you help Londoners understand what we have right here in our own backyards in terms of culture and art, but also other forms of excellence, like talk about medicine, which isn't something that you would regularly hear about in combination with music and art and culture. What led you to developing awards that are so diverse in the types of talents that you're recognizing people for?
Well, we're a COVID baby. Our communities were hard hit all across the globe, and I wanted something that is specific to London that would say, let's get together, let's have a little bit of enjoyment. Once again, let's recognize each other, and then let's showcase it to London in general. So even though the talent represented represents the Black communities, we want actually to showcase it. It's not just for us, it's for us to share and say, hey, these are your neighbors, these are your friends, these are people that you know. And in some cases, these are people you don't know, but this is what they do, this is how well they do it, let's show it. Let's show it.
The marker for me of an event that's really successful, that I feel very happy to have spent my time going to, is if I have a moment where I'm brought to tears. And at the Essence and Culture Awards for me last year, it was the moment when the London Children's Gospel Choir took the stage. I probably cried throughout the entire performance, and they were so powerful, from the tiniest little child to the teenagers, but even more so the director of the choir putting their entire heart and soul on that stage. I once went to a Ricky Martin concert and he said, I will leave my soul on the stage for you tonight. And that's what I felt that children's choir did. I'm really excited to hear about some of the moments that we can expect to experience at this year's awards. That's at a really high bar. So what else do you have coming for us this time?
The next coming, which will be in February of 2025, we're looking to go a little bit more cultural. There's so many traditional music styles that are here in London that we haven't truly explored. I have a group from the Congo, and I remember going to a church and listening to a group singing Lingala, and I was blown away. I'm like, yep, got to showcase them. So this year I said, you know what? Let's do culture. I want to make an impression. Let's do culture. Let's bring in all the things that people haven't seen, right? And so that's where the emphasis is going to be. Of course, we're also going to honor the other musical styles that are there. You know, the reggae, the soca, the gospel music, the R&B, and of course hip hop. But this year we're actually going to showcase our culture a little bit more because I want to showcase some of what we, like I said before, things that we haven't seen.
It's interesting because in Canada, we have a lot of familiarity with Latin music,
Yeah.
but we know that the rhythms or the soul of Latin music comes from Africa, and percussion that you hear, but also the music that we're most familiar with, such as the Cuban rhythms of son and of salsa. Really, the undercurrent of that and the heart and soul of that are those rhythms that first began in Africa. And Latin music wasn't always popular here. Over the last 30 years, that's really evolved. And so this seems like there's no time like the present for people to become aware of the crossovers and the way that the music that we're really familiar with has been influenced by this rich culture and history and rhythms of other countries that we're less familiar with. Have you seen any evolution of that? Or do you think that maybe we're ready for that now?
I'm gonna, you know what? That's a good question, and I'm gonna say evolution everywhere. In the last 10 years, you've seen the intermix of genres. You've seen, you know, let's go back to. I'm gonna go a little bit back to aspects of reggae dancehall that influence reggaeton, right? There is, and like you said, in salsa, some of the drum patterns. You see that a lot in Latin music. House music, there is Afro house, you know, so you're seeing everything mix. You're seeing soca, which has and soca you can identify a little bit because of the speed, the beat. You can see that in house music as well. You can see that in up-tempo pop nowadays. And so everything is interlaying with each other. So evolution is there. So we're looking around, and that allows everybody to actually relate to everybody, because your music in some way is relating to the next person, and it's influencing the next person. Even to, I listen to some of the Indian music, and I'm listening to the reggae in there. I'm listening to the hip hop in there. I'm listening to all the other things. So everybody's thankfully, right? Everybody is relating to everybody through music.
And the Essence and Culture Wars aren't the only way that you're highlighting these different cultural expressions in London. You're also having various events throughout our community. You've done roller skating. You've done. You plan to do roller skating.
Yeah,
it's coming.
It's coming.
It's still going to come. Maybe next summer. Yeah. But also at Covent Garden Market, you've been supporting events there. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and maybe how the audiences have been responding?
Okay. One of the events I get to support is Island Fest. Well, actually, there are two events, Island Fest and Jerk Fest. It's beautiful to see the different islands represented fully in Canada. I think not only Canada, I should say London, Ontario, because I think that's something that's been missing for a while, and they've had it at different points, but now we're seeing it come back with not with a vengeance, but with just excitement. I'm seeing people come out. The first year of Island Fest, which was last year, I couldn't believe the turnout. I remember the food vendors were having trouble at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. There were crazy lineups. Musically, Island Fest is something that is based on soca. But also because they're Latin islands there is Haiti, across from Haiti, Dominican Republic. You've got Cuba in the Caribbean. So they've made efforts to reach out to the Latin community and say, hey, you're part of the Caribbean islands, and this is what Island Fest is for. This is island music, right? Even though, like I said, it's led by soca and reggae, and like I said, the Latin influence. I get to interview some of them because I do that on on my podcast, Real Talk. I get to interview some of the artists. You'll see that coming out. Well, you'll see it'll be out there because I think, I'm not sure when this is going to be shown, but they'll be out there. We get to talk to them about being in London, Ontario, because it's a little bit different being in London. London is not Toronto, but it is developing. And as you see artists gain a foothold with their music, then, you know, we're at a good space and a good time.
Yeah, and absolutely, London is not Toronto. Nobody would make that mistake.
Thankfully.
But I think we have so much potential for connection in London. That's something that I really appreciate about being here. And that's part of the purpose of having a show called London's Hidden Talent, is that around every corner in the city, there is a person that you're going to bump into, and they may be your banker. They could be your landscaper. They could be the person cleaning your house. And they can also have a very rich talent, way of expressing themselves in our community. And next thing you know, you're walking by Covent Garden Market and you see them on a stage, or you see them receiving an award at the Forest City London Music Awards or at the Essence and Culture Award. And we have these opportunities in London to connect to each other and develop friendships and relationships and support each other in a way that can easily get lost in a bigger urban center.
Yeah, and I was just going to touch on that. The size of London helps because, like you said, you can just walk around the corner and see this. You can just walk around the corner and see that. And that allows people to be more together, I think, because, like I said, you just walk around and they're there. So you get exposed to everything. And it's truly coming out, you know, downtown London. The Dundas Street area has been a great representative of that, right? I remember last summer walking down for the Latin atmosphere on Friday evenings, right? So, you know, I'd go down and watch people dance, right? You know, me and my two left feet I was always shy, but I'm like, yep, this is what I would do, and I'd live through them. And then further down the street, you'd see something else. So the size of London plays an integral part in people being able to experience a lot of things without having to go across town, without having to go here, and then without having to spend too much too. So it's economically friendly for people.
Speaking of not having to spend much, it doesn't cost a lot to go to the Essence and Culture Awards, but it's worth every single penny. I would encourage anyone out there listening to this to take the time to buy a ticket, to support the awards, and to go for an amazing evening. Last time you had a comedian who, G is there, who really cracked me up. Really, he was great. But also, you just learn about people that you're not likely to otherwise know unless they're in your smaller circles. But, you know, as we've said, you run into them later and you're able to say, hey, you've done amazing things with literature. You've done amazing things with your comedy. You've done amazing things leading a group of young people to express themselves in such a powerful way through something like a gospel choir. So I hope that you sell out early. I'm going to get my tickets as soon as they come out so that I don't miss out now that I'm letting everyone know. But really, all Londoners should be a part of your awards. And I thank you so much for holding them and for everything you do in our community to let people know about the beautiful and amazing talent and people we have here.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Next, we have musician Christian Daboud. Christian is a member of the Antonio Alas Mariachi Band. Originally from El Salvador, Christian has been a part of the music scene in London for more than 30 years and has witnessed firsthand the evolution of local interest in Latin music and culture. Christian, thank you for joining us on London's Hidden Talent. It is a pleasure to have you here today, representing yourself as a musician, but also Antonio Alas Mariachi Band is one of the members of the band.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
It's not every day you get to meet a mariachi wearing a suit jacket. Well, not this kind of suit jacket anyway.
Kind of suit jacket, yes. Yeah.
It was great to have you. And in the fall, we had the leader of the band, Antonio Alas, here with us. And he was talking about how you guys won the first ever Latin Music Award of the Forest City London Music Awards for your song Somos Hispanos. And we didn't have time to talk a lot about the history of the band, And also, the different members who are in the band, we have the pleasure today of showing some of your music video for Somos Hispanos, which we recorded very close by at Quiet Earth Farm, at Brent Jones Farm in Dorchester.
Yeah.
But maybe could you tell us a little bit about how the band got started and how you became a part of it?
Yeah. So we've been together, at least this version of the band, for over 20 years. And we're all, seasoned musicians. I came to become part of the band, like I said, I think it was about early 2000. Antonio has been playing since he was a young man back in El Salvador, and has played music for a long time. But when he came to Canada, like many of us that came in either the mid 80s to late 80s, because things that were happening in El Salvador at the time, we had to find a way of making some money. And so Antonio started to play music on his own, and he had different iterations of the mariachi, different people that have come and gone from the band. But there was never a group that really clicked. People all had slightly different visions, and maybe the bands would last for 2 or 3 years, and they disband. The one thing that was constant was Antonio, and it was Javier that I had played with in other bands with. I've been playing music for a while as well, but we used to play like salsa music, merengue. I used to actually play the tambora, which is a Dominican instrument in this band, and guitar. Played for a few years, did little gigs here and there in London. Antonio was looking for another guitar player, and Javier was playing with him. And then we started to practice, and we seemed to get, along fairly quickly. We also, I think Antonio and I have similar political views about social justice and, being progressive in the way we think about, I think because maybe our artistic sensibility, we like to, we want to bring up people together. And I think we got along fairly quickly. And the three of us with Javier really started to play a lot together. I think it went really well. And then a little bit over time, there was Ivan Hidalgo that also played with us in the previous band. We also roped him in. He didn't want to really join because of the whole mariachi. It was a bit of a sell for him. But once we got him sort of used to the idea that he could, play music, we like different kind of music. We weren't really mariachi musicians. We really fell in love with the music. We all grew up listening to música ranchera, country music of Mexico. And so I think it's part of the DNA of every Latin American, right? But that's how we came together. And then we've become family really since then, because we've spent so much time together playing, gigs. But then we've been at each other's like really important moments in the last 20 years as family members. Whether it's being weddings or funerals or people getting sick. That's, I think, the other thing that has been special about the band. And then you can hear a little bit in the music is that we're very cohesive. Like we're a strong group.
Yeah. Well, and our audience will be able to see that in your music video. Yeah. That I was there while you were filming the video. That was a very long day. I was not there as early as you were. Yeah. You caught that first light in the morning of that beautiful barn that you shot it in. But there is something really special about the group of you together, and you're all very different. You're wearing the same outfits, and you can see you as a group of mariachis, but at the same time, you've got Javier who's dancing the whole time. He's got his pasito, and Antonio's very strong on the vocals, and he's certainly the leader of the group. Absolutely. And you do a lot of the organizing behind the scenes and the bookings and things like that. And Ivan is always right there with you guys, ready, and he's a really integral part of the group.
He's the funny guy of the band, but we just, among us.
He keeps you entertained.
Yeah, he just doesn't, you don't get to see that part of Ivan. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, there are different generations within your band. What's it like for you as the youngest member of the group to be spending time with and learning from people who have been playing music quite a bit longer than you?
I certainly would say that, I've learned from all three of the members of the band. And it's funny how, when you are able to, last that long as a group, how much even the roles of the band have changed over time. I'm certainly more of um, I'm managing the affairs of the band a lot more now, but it's simply because I think, um, as being the younger member of the band, sometimes, I've kept up with some of the technology and the social media stuff that's made it easier for us to manage our work. But when I started, I was, fairly green, and I was really taking the lead of all the members of the band to learn about, how to perform, how to play music. Most of the music, I play guitar before the band, obviously, and bass and other instruments, but uh, many of the songs I only learned through the band, like I had never heard them before, because some of them were quite classic songs that have been around for many, many decades. And I learned them with the band, and it was only years later that I was like actually heard a recording of this thing. So learned so much, and and I think what I've been able to do over time is help the band. Um, learn how to sort of operate a little bit more in within the larger community. For a long time, it was mostly with the Latin community that we performed, and because I've been a bit of a bridge. I'm the one that sort of probably is the most fluent in English. It's not that they don't speak English, but I manage the culture as well. I think that's the part that I bring to the group, especially now that I can move in and out of the English speaking, part of London, and the Latin part of London. And now actually, even with other groups, because I think the great thing about the music now that people know us more, we're connecting with a lot more different communities, which is great.
And there's nothing like mariachi music, whether you grew up listening to it or you were on vacation,
Yeah.
or you're at a place like Soho Taco and Tequila or Mexicactus. There are so many places where people show up because mariachis will be there.
Yeah.
You guys are hired for birthdays, you're hired for weddings, for
everything.
anniversaries, and it's not just by Latino people, that's for
Yeah.
sure. What do you think it is about mariachi music that seems to go across cultures and across languages in a way that perhaps other styles of music don't quite achieve?
And I've talked to this to a few people that, people are surprised that we're from El Salvador and play mariachi music. And first explanation is that, mariachi music is like tango or salsa, like that cumbias, right? They came from Colombia, son cubano from Cuba, but uh, the music of Mexico is just like, it's like the food of Mexico. It's spread all over the world. There's Japanese mariachis, and people don't know, like there's mariachis all over the world. And I think what it is that one is it's a folk music that it's really full of passion. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say, but people can really hear there's a lot of emotion really emoted through the songs. And it's not that it's different from other folk music in that, we sing about heartbreak or about new love or about, successes and failures in life. But there's something about the Mexican, sort of that genre, the way that, the great songwriters of Mexico, sort of put together the songs that make the song so powerful. They're like the combination of instruments to work so well together.
And the voices.
And the voices. So when you have it going on really well, it's really powerful music. And I was telling, like, the three members of the band, Antonio's always loved mariachi music. But we were sort of converts because we loved Latin music and we liked mariachi music, but we never thought we would become mariachis. And I would certainly say I'm a mariachi, like now 100%. I love the music. I've learned so much now that I would say I probably know a lot more than the average fan of mariachi, because I had to learn so much about it, about its history and stuff. And I think that's what it is, right? People, regardless of whether you understand the words or not, understand the pain or the happiness that's in the song, and the songs really are able to connect with people in their heart and everything.
We are lucky enough to have the music video for Somos Hispanos, and you play lots of hits that people would know from traditional mariachi music, but also original music. Somos Hispanos is by Antonio Alas.
Absolutely.
He wrote that song. Could you just tell our audience a little bit about the meaning of that song so that they know what they're listening for?
So Somos Hispanos means we are Hispanic in English. And the song is actually about, sort of having to leave your home, down south somewhere and come in and living in the north and still having pride in your culture. And we actually name a few countries in Latin America because, as I was saying earlier, we really value Latin American culture in general. As Salvadorians, we see ourselves not just, I think it's the great thing of leaving your countries, that then you start to see yourself. We met people from all over Latin America, and there's a lot of connection, right? Like we were very similar in some ways. We're different, but also similar. And the song is about those similarities that, we should take pride in being Venezuelan or Colombian, Salvadorian, Guatemalan, that there's things like rice and beans that connect us all. There's a part of the song that we sing about that. And we also take a little, Antonio takes a little bit of time to take pride in being Salvadorian as well. But for a long time, because of, civil war and violence, sometimes we didn't have a lot of pride, but we have been, sort of working as a community to show our pride in El Salvador. And so we speak about pupusas, which is our favorite food in El Salvador. And so it's about having pride, but not forgetting your roots, Latin American roots.
I can't wait for everyone to hear this song, to see the entire group with Antonio, yourself, Christian, Ivan, and Javier. And just before we go to that, if people want to find out more about you guys or book you for an event, where could they do that?
Probably the easiest way is to look for us on Instagram at Antonio Alas Mariachi. If you just put Antonio, you're going to have to figure out how to spell Antonio Alas. But Antonio Alas Mariachi on Instagram. We'll also have a Facebook page as well. Same thing, Antonio Alas Mariachi. So if you look for us on Facebook or Instagram, you'll find us. And, you can message us. My phone number is out there as well, and you can get a reach of me.
Great. Yeah. Well, I always love seeing you guys out in the community and dancing along to your music. Yeah. I know everyone's going to really enjoy your music video, and then I hope that they'll go and find you out live, because there's nothing quite like seeing a mariachi band live and feeling that music go straight to your heart. So thank you for taking the time to tell a little bit more about the history of the band today.
Thank you.
Ahora sí, ya está aquí. A este mariachi vamos todos a escuchar. Ahora sí, claro que sí. Con el mariachi podemos todos cantar. Somos hispanos aquí en el norte, que a nuestros pueblos no podemos olvidar. Por eso canto y hasta lloro cuando recuerdo de mi infancia y en mi hogar. Canten conmigo a Nicaragua, a Guatemala, a Honduras, El Salvador, a Costa Rica y hasta Colombia. Que viva el sur, que viva Cuba y México. Yo soy guanaco, yo también, muy chalateco. Como Chapín también me la puedo jugar. No soy tantico y al gallo pinto. Con las pupusas somos internacional.